and welcome to Dungeoneered, a podcast dedicated to discussing Dungeons and Dragons. I'm Aaron.
And I'm Josh.
Let's do this. All right, Josh. So this week, I've been thinking.
Uh-oh, that's dangerous.
I've been thinking we should do something fun for the intro.
Okay, what do you have in mind?
Well, I'm thinking that what we should be doing, you know how we came up with a cool segment? I came up with a cool segment not too long ago.
Sure.
And you remember how we were discussing maybe have it be like a cold open?
Yeah.
I mean, it's too late for a cold open now, but we could do like as my bird flies in the microphone, we could do like
Yeah, it was loud.
a lukewarm open.
Okay, a lukewarm open. And what is this lukewarm open?
It's an opening after the open.
Okay.
And what I was thinking is that every week we take a topic or like an item of some kind and we try and see how you'd fit it into a D&D campaign. Just like a tiny little something.
Okay.
So like, for example,
What's your idea?
You know how we've been talking about potato wedges and chairs and potato wedges?
Oh,
okay. You remember that?
Yeah, but I was thinking it would be like a magic item but it's potato wedges?
Well, I mean, it doesn't have to be potato wedges, but I was thinking like, something fun. For example, if I were to say dog, okay? Mm-hmm. And then how would you put a dog or a fun, like something in D&D, how would you put it into your campaign?
Well, I would do one of two things.
But this is just an example because I could go crazy.
Yeah, I have one of two things. So, first thing, I would have it kind of at the end of some sort of a, not fully end, but part the way into like a dungeon. Some sort of like long thing they've had to fight through. And this dog has taken some damage. And it's kind of like cowering in a corner. And they would have to like help it heal its wounds and that kind of thing. And it would kind of grow this attachment to them. And then it might become a companion that they it's the party's dog and whatnot.
You know what I just immediately thought of, right when I said dog? You know in Skyrim, when you, spoilers, are doing some of the Daedric quests, and there's that dog who talks and he's super annoying?
I forgot about that dog, but yes, I do remember that dog.
What is his name? Marco? Mako?
I thought it was something with a B.
Barbus.
Yeah, it's like Barbus or something like that.
Barbus. It's Barbus. I think it's Barbus.
Yeah.
What if you were to have like Barbus in your campaign?
Well, so that's the second thing I was going to go to is an awakened dog. So it's a dog that has been... So awakened, for anybody who doesn't know, is a spell that kind of grants sentience to a creature that is of a certain low level of intelligence. So it's a very expensive... You cast it on a jewel and you put it in there on them somewhere and it kind of awakens them. And so that is what my second idea was.
It's like Nathan.
Yes, Nathan, your horse in that one campaign was awakened. Now...
Yeah.
If you awaken the dog, you could have it be anything. It could be a quest giver. It could be the end of a quest. It could be an NPC. It could be a big bad evil guy. You could use it wherever you want.
That would be so... What if you had a big bad evil dog?
Yeah, that would be a rough campaign. I don't think I could. I could
towards
play
the end of the campaign, your party's like going through this terrible dungeon of the Mad Mage, and they walk into the final room. There's a chihuahua sitting on a pillow. Welcome to my lair.
I see you've beat my golems.
But now you must face the true evil.
And the master of this dungeon, me.
That'd be so stupid. I couldn't do it.
I could. Yeah, that's what I was saying. I don't think it could. I couldn't handle that kind of a campaign running that.
Now I could though. I could definitely have like an NPC, like a tavern keeper or something weird. Have like a dog who is ridiculous like that. Mm-hmm. Definitely could. Yeah. Like they walk into the tavern and like how dogs like bark at people who are like they don't know. Like he's like, "Intruder in the tavern. Who is this?" He walks up to you. Like that'd be fun. I think that'd be really fun.
Yeah, just have him play on dog eccentricities, but he's actually speaking words. Like,
yeah.
Hey, hey.
Yeah, exactly. Pet, right here. Nope. A little bit down. Oh, right there, right behind the ear. Yeah. Right. Like...
And then his toe starts like doing that kind of uncontrollable shaking when they get the right spot.
Yeah, the tickle spot.
Yep.
So
okay,
funny.
well, I'm gonna cut this cold open here.
Lukewarm open.
Sure. About the 5-minute mark is, I think, as far as I'll let that go.
One of these days, we're going to have an entire episode dedicated to the lukewarm open.
Oh, no. Oh. Now, for any of you who listen to my brother and me will remember the episode that they've come out with recently where they're cold open of talking about War with Grandpa, a terrible movie. They just went on and on and on for the whole hour-long episode. They talked about the movie War with Grandpa, and it was hilarious and amazing. I don't think we have the kind of charisma to pull that off, but hopefully we do.
Come on. We totally do. We could do it, right? Especially, talking about dogs and taverns.
No, I've cut you off. I'm fully cutting you off now. We're going to talk about the topic.
What's the real topic?
Okay, the topic is the Feywild. We've talked about the Shadowfell. I think it was a good enough amount of time for us to now talk about the Feywild. And also, last week, we talked about hags, and hags are actually from the Feywild. So I was thinking we could combine it, talk about the Feywild, and then for the second half of the episode, we would do kind of, where did our hags come from?
Okay, so we create where they came from?
Yeah, so it could be a plane like the Feywild, but it could also be anything. It could just be
maybe a 747 or like a passenger jet or something, or like a
I was thinking more like a transcontinental train or something, but I guess we could go air flight, but that wasn't the intention.
I think we'd have to.
Okay. So, now for those of you who didn't listen to the episode about the Shadowfell, I'm going to kind of recap a little bit. Now, the Shadowfell is a dark mirror of the material plane. Not so far that you can actively affect one by affecting the other. You certainly could through powerful magic, but by simply digging a ditch, it doesn't make a ditch appear in the other one. In the same way, the Shadowfell is connected to the material plane, the Feywild is as well. But unlike the Shadowfell's dark, dreary, and undead atmosphere, the Feywild is vibrant, bright, and tricksy.
Wait, so is the Feywild supposed to be the exact opposite of the Shadowfell? Like, is that its purpose, or is there something?
No, its purpose wasn't that. It's there's a lot of creation stories for these, and I couldn't find the exact specific creation story for the Feywild based on the creation story I gave you for the Shadowfell. The one that I found, though, was as they were creating the material plane, there were things that were too dark and too bright. And so they pulled all those things away and kind of threw them to the side, and they coalesced together. And so that the dark stuff that they threw off the material plane created the Shadowfell, and the bright stuff created the Feywild.
But isn't the Feywild neutral? Isn't it kind of chaotic?
Yeah, it's chaotic. Yeah, so they don't have full on alignments. So there's the material plane, the Shadowfell, the Feywild. Those are the inner planes. Those don't really have alignments. Like the ones on the outside of the outer planes, those all have very, very clear alignments. If you look at a view of, I forget what they call the cosmological view of those planes. I think it's called the Great Wheel cosmology. If you look at an image of it, it has them all arrayed in a circle around the material plane. And you can, if you just take it as up and down is up is good, down is evil, left is lawful, right is chaotic, you can figure out where each plane's kind of base alignment based on that.
Got it.
Yeah. Now back to I started looking up the cosmology, so I wanted to look that up and then lost my place.
I think you've shown me it before.
Oh yes, I definitely have. When we talked about it previously, I think it was in the Shadowfell
episode.
Now, examples of this mirror-like connection is a dirty river on the material plane could be a beautiful, clean, babbling brook in the Feywild. Simply put, the Feywild is the kind of picturesque reflection of the material plane, almost like putting like one of those like Snapchat filters to make you look better than you look.
Ah, yes.
That kind of thing. Well, the Shadowfell is a dark, foreboding shadow of the material plane.
So a filter that makes you look worse.
I was going to say in bad lighting, but that works too. Now, an interesting thing to note, also spoken of in a previous episode, when we talked about Karsus's folly, which I think was episode 2, if I remember correctly, we discussed Mistral. Yeah, we discussed Mistral, the goddess of magic, and the weave that covers the material plane. When she died and the weave was rebuilt by the replacement Mistra, restrictions were placed on the weave, preventing spellcasting of anything higher than 9th level spells. But in the Feywild, those restrictions were never placed. The reason for this lack of restriction lies within the very essence of what the plane is. It has innate magical energy that far surpasses what we have on the material plane, and any scar, whether of the weave or physically on the landscape, is quickly overgrown by the energy there and the vibrant life. An interesting description I've heard of the Feywild describes it as a party. A constant party. And just as the sun never sets there, neither does the party ever ebb. This causes What?
I said I love it so much.
This causes creatures of the Fey to feel almost alien in this way, and almost timeless. The opposite of how I felt this week. I just felt like I had no time. They feel timeless.
Relatable.
Yeah. Now, this atmosphere of never-ending revelry, after a while, starts to eat away at creatures that are not from the Feywild, causing them to lose focus and become weary, unable to remember the time or how long it's been, or even where they were going.
Okay, so what you're telling me is that everybody who visits the Feywild who's not from the Feywild is like an introvert at a party.
That is a great way of putting it, but it takes some time. So even the most like extroverted person, they are just, as I said, it's a constant party. They're just constant revelry, constantly doing something, constantly drinking, constantly doing all this stuff that it is impossible, no matter how high of level character you are, eventually you run out of steam.
Boy.
They do not. And so
I don't know if I could possibly even imagine a never-ending party.
That doesn't get boring? Yeah, that sounds impossible. So they must be the best partiers to be able to have that atmosphere going. And I'm sure it also helps
Must be really good music.
Yeah, I'm sure it also helps that there's just massive amounts of magical energy running, like, just rampant on the Feywild, that it might help their parties.
Yeah, well, I mean, even because you said the sun never set. Like, the sun never sets, does it set in the Feywild?
Nope.
So, okay, I've been to Alaska during the middle of the summer, and let me tell you, it sucks.
I have too. I
just want to sleep.
There's just a bunch of bugs. I wouldn't say it sucks. There's just so many bugs. Ugh.
It's actually kind of cool for like the first couple days because you're like, wow, it's midnight, but it's so light outside.
It's so
and
bright.
then like 4 days later, you're kind of like, okay, I'm ready for darkness and sleep.
My body doesn't understand what time it is. Can you just like fix yourself so I can remember?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But now just imagine that instead of like the sun, like, yes, the sun never sets, but then you just have a party going all the time. It'd be terrible.
Yeah. Now, despite the creatures of the Fae seeming silly, fun, dancing about, and partying, they are all creatures of great intellect, able to cope with the energies of the plane and keep their mind trained on what they must do. You can think of it like the end of Ghostbusters, where they all are like having to try and think of nothing because whatever they imagine will come to life as their enemy. The innate magic of the Feywild can be just as deadly. Those without magical talent can even create magical effects through simply attuning to the world. Now, the mirror-like effect of the Feywild goes so far as to mirror the Underdark as well, creating a location underneath called the Feydark. They're really imaginative with that name. Really.
Wait, so there's two different types of Feywild, like normal Feywild and then the Feydark?
It's the same way that there's the material plane and the Underdark. They're on the same plane, okay, but they're below each other. There's just differences to each other.
Got it. I've never seen like a campaign go into the Feydark.
Yeah,
I've seen a ton go into like the Underdark.
Yeah, I've definitely not heard of anybody actually exploring the Feydark. But it is there, and almost every video that I heard talking about the Feywild, at least at one point mentioned the Feydark.
Huh. Wow, interesting. I didn't know that.
Yeah. Unlike the traditional Underdark, the Feydark is vibrant and full of life, from flora to fauna. But the most numerous beings in the Underdark are the Fomorians. Now, Aaron, do you know anything about the Fomorians?
I know that they're like giants, and they like have a cool paralyzing effect on their eye or whatever.
You said they're cool giants, correct?
Well, they're creepy looking. They're like diseased looking or whatever.
Yeah, so they're a bunch of they're supposed to be disgusting. Their look.
Yeah, I mean the only reason I know that is because we fought some in Chris's campaign one time.
Yeah. So the Fomorians are. Yeah, they're supposed to be gross. Let me pull up a description for you of.
Yeah, they look nasty.
Yeah, so they have like these humps on their back that are So here, the deformities that Fomorians had varied widely between individuals. These included such things as randomly distributed facial features, examples: eyes on the side of their head.
Yeah, that.
Disproportionate or crooked limbs, humpbacks, long pointed heads, flapping ears, large noses or mouths that were either gaping or tiny. They're out of place. They're nothing, like, you know how there's like that kind of uncanny valley when it comes to drawing in like, or video games trying to like create realistic people?
Yeah, or creating horses.
Yeah, and so for anybody who doesn't know what the uncanny valley is, it's this kind of principle where if you try to make things as close to human as possible, and it seems like as you get closer and closer and closer, everything that you did slightly wrong, which it might just be like a little tiniest amount wrong,
look weirder and weirder.
Yeah, it gets weirder and weirder, and it's more noticeable and more noticeable as you get closer and closer to actually human-like. And as Aaron said, with horses are really hard to animate. Yep. And everybody knows how a horse should look when it runs, but it's super noticeable when an animation is just slightly off. Yeah, slightly off, and you're like, that doesn't look like it's running quite right.
Yep.
And so there's the uncanny valley. It feels like that, and so everything about them just screams something is wrong.
Yeah, so if I remember the picture in the dungeon, in the monster manual, they like have like I think he has a hunchback. I know
he has a tiny left eye. He has a hunchback. He has a bunch of boils and bumps all over his body.
Yeah, they're super creepy looking.
Yeah. And so
aren't they like slaves to drow? Not to go completely off topic.
Not really, no. They're actually very powerful. So they're one of the major what are they called? Empires under the ground in the Underdark.
Yeah, I know they have like really powerful abilities in D&D, at least for level. But
yeah, so Fomorians they're in the monster manual and whatnot. They are considered giant kin, so they're giants. But they are actually fey creatures. So it's a mixture of giant and fey. Now they are descendants of titans. And their story is a good example of it's a major event in the Feywild's history. The Fomorians have a massive kingdom still, though it is now in the Feydark and the real Underdark. And it's as big as like material plane realms as well. To understand Fomorians' creation, you have to understand a few basic things about giant kind and their creation. And I knew we were going to go into this like in depth on another episode, so I'm going to kind of try to give you as limited information as possible. Now, the giants all worship and came from Annam the Allfather. He was the progenitor of nearly all giant kind. Anna married Othea, and they are the one, and with her he had many sons that became the different races of sons and daughters that became the races of giants. But Othea wasn't faithful. First, she had a relationship with one known as Vaprek, and their union created the ogres. Secondly, she cheated with a being known as Yuliutia, resulting in 4 children, creating the Fomorians, the Furbolgs, the Virbig, and the Voidkin.
Wow.
All of this is to say that the Fomorians were never regarded that well in giant kind in general. I'm not sure exactly the 100% kind of giant lore yet. I know a lot of it, but I don't know all of it. I know there is some importance to being able to throw rocks. Like it's like a status symbol type thing.
Like an Olympic sport?
Kind of. It's kind of like, I think it's like a kind of show of strength type thing. Like, look how strong we are. And the deformities that Fomorians have actually prevents them from even lifting the rocks.
Ooh, that's not good.
Yeah, so it already is like puts them on a back foot there, and they're kind of angry about that. But
they're the last kid who gets picked in kickball.
But they weren't. They weren't originally though.
That's so sad.
Well, when they were first made, when they first became into being, they lived in the Feywild as the most beautiful of all giant kind. Truly incredible sights to behold, all of them. But the Fomorians became twisted in their pursuit of power and magic. They began to conquer the Feywild, seeking to enslave all of its inhabitants and to take their magic. The Fey would not have this and fought back, and in the end cursed the Fomorians for their hubris, warping their features into reflections of their evil hearts and robbing them of their spellcasting as well. They fled from there into the Feydark and the real Underdark.
Huh.
So Fomorians used to be the most beautiful of all the creatures before
I guess you don't mess with Fey.
Yeah. I think that's an important lesson. Don't mess with Fey.
Jeez.
Now this is all I have really about the Feywild. And so as I said earlier, I think for the last of our episode, we should try to create kind of where our hags came from.
So do we want to create like a evil plane? Like, is that?
I think it's up to you. I think if you want our hags to come from a world of just evil, then yeah. I like the idea that they are an evil thing that is in a good place. Which there's actually a few other evil things, like in the Feywild they have things called red caps, which are like
I love red caps.
distorted evil gnomes. So they're pretty much halflings.
It's so amazing.
They're distorted evil gnomes, so they're pretty much halflings.
No, okay, you know what? I knew you said something about halflings, but I was like,
I know you didn't say it because you didn't say anything.
I assumed it was a diss, so I was just gonna let it slide and just But I can't believe it. You know what, Josh? I think this podcast is gonna have to end.
But so how they are created is by someone murdering someone in the Feywild.
Yeah, just like how halflings are created.
Just like how exactly. And so when the kind of magic of the realm and the evil intent of the murder has a possibility of through the blood of this dead creature now spawns a red cap. And red caps, they will literally die if they do not coat their cap in blood every 3 days.
That's so messed up.
Yeah.
I thought we were creating kind of like dark creatures, but man, D&D's really gone a next step.
I mean, I think I've talked about this already on another episode, but there's the kid who the Make-A-Wish kid who created the obelisk, which is literally like it kills someone and takes over their life to corrupt to kill more people. So it uses the people it kills and makes it look like they're moving about and doing things, and they can talk with other people and remember their memories, but they only do that so that they can eat the people.
That is so
yeah, there's darkness in D&D.
I was like, man, we should have a happy episode, but here's D&D in the background, just like Yeah, well, these are evil gnomes who have to kill and wash their hat in blood, otherwise they die.
They're like, oh,
Dang.
happy episode? Oh, yeah, you can have a happy topic, but don't forget there's a little bit of D&D back there.
True. Okay, yeah, so I think it'd be a good idea to create like I like the idea of like a chaotic plane, not necessarily like a good plane, not necessarily like full of good stuff.
Yeah.
Because I don't know, why would hags be in like in a happy-go-lucky plane, except for to, I guess, kill everything?
Well, I mean, hags are in the Feywild.
Yeah, but like, so you were saying there's a lot of creation myths about the Feywild, but it's not like all good though, like you said.
Yeah. So I mean, so that's yeah, it's the enhanced magic of the realm that kind of grows. Like everybody in the Feywild, because of this immense magic, has magical power, and so
Right.
I think
Okay, so then I think we have to retain.
I'm not sure why the hags are there, but I think it's just kind of because it feels like when they were creating the Feywild, they're like, let's create like when in our fantasies, like the kind of classic happy fantasy where it's like, oh, it's this Cinderella, this magical forest, and like this kind of just this feeling that we have when we think of fantasy world, like as a kid. As a child, what our fantasy is. And so it feels like it kind of plays on that for creating the Feywild. And then they're like, oh, but in the classic fantasy, there's got to be the witch in the woods type thing. And so it feels like they kind of wanted all that to be together.
Yeah, I got it. Yeah, like magical fairies and fun.
And fun satyrs playing around and people playing fiddles. And you can come across happy-go-lucky strangers in the forest type thing.
Yeah. But don't go into the swamp.
Yeah, that's like, yeah. Yeah, there are hags that stay in the swamp. There are swamp hags.
So then I think we have to probably retain at least some of the like crazy magical essences and abilities and stuff like that of the Feywild, right?
Yeah. Yeah, I love the idea about it.
Yeah, why would that be though? So if we're creating this plane, so it's I guess this incredibly magical place, why would there be so much magic in this plane compared to other planes?
Well, okay, this is going to be a pretty big thing.
Yeah, I mean, we gotta like really reach into the Mind Palace.
In the creation of the world, there was 2 deities of creation.
Yeah, I mean, I guess we have to like dive all the way back into like creation and stuff.
Yeah,
if we're creating a plane.
So what I'm thinking is there was 2 creations. There were 2 deities of. Actually, I think there are 3 deities of creation.
Actually, before we even get into this, how have you done it in your world? Just so we have like a basis of how somebody's done it.
I haven't really had so my first campaign. One of the major things that happened, so major part of it is that no one has had access to the other planes. Like it wasn't a thing. Nobody thought about it. Nobody did it because it had been locked off. And so something that happens near the end of the campaign is that what was trying to happen was they were trying to summon Orcus. And so one of the things they had to get through first was they had to break that barrier. So in the first campaign, there was absolutely no need to create other planes because there was no access to it.
Got it. A nice DM loophole.
But no, it was a fun thing that they kind of had to figure out, and so they found spells like the plane shift
and stuff like that
and things like that, and then but it was they found it as kind of, what is this? I've never heard of this spell. How does this even work? This couldn't work, and they kind of like know based on Arcana and how the magic works that would never work. You couldn't cross a plane. What do you mean by planes? Only to have the planar barrier be broken.
But that like planar barrier kind of prevented you from like diving too deep into how like creation happened.
Yeah, I honestly have not done a lot on how the world. I have my planar creation is not planet based; it's continent based. So I haven't even thought of how actual planet came to be. I've thought of how each continent came to be and the people on it.
Yeah, no, I mean that's totally fine. Like there's nothing wrong with it at all. In fact, like I said earlier, kind of like a DM loophole. It's really fun to like, well, this is blocked, like
Yeah.
like just create it as part of a thing, and then it prevents you, you don't have to create nearly as much. So that is another thing for people who like want to DM but don't want to create too much. Like you can easily do something like that too.
Yeah, in this next campaign that I'm doing, the post-apocalypse one, the way that they actually, I mean, for anybody who's going to be playing in my next campaign, please stop listening here. Don't listen to this part because this is kind of a big thing they don't know yet. Yes, spoiler. The way that they destroyed the world, because what they tried to do is it was like a bunch of nukes going off a bunch of places. What they did was they opened up portals to the plane, the negative energy plane, which is the plane that we talked about during the Shadowfell episode, because they kind of combined the Shadowfell with the negative energy plane to kind of grow its undeath and power. And so I'm having the negative energy plane be this plane of just broiling energy that kind of, you open up the thing to it and all of a sudden there's an explosion. And so they opened up all these portals in a bunch of different areas, kind of like how Halo was trying to do it, like the idea of the Halo rings. Each one is set up in a strategic position so that they could wipe out everything that the flood could ever eat.
Yeah.
And so that's what they tried to do on this planet, was they were like, we're just going to wipe out everything that these abominations could eat. Little did they know, someone knew this was going to happen and saved their, like, a section of their city. And so the saving of their city also brought about saving a few of the abominations so they couldn't kill all of them.
Huh.
And so planes will be very, very, very important in that next campaign. And I even already have one of the players is going to play the Horizon Walker Ranger, which his whole thing is plane based.
Yeah. So it's kind of like a continuation, in a way.
I mean, it's not the same world.
Is it like based in the same universe, I guess?
Nope. Not at all.
Okay.
100% different.
just a different feel for the campaign, I guess.
Yeah. Because in the second campaign I played on this same world, different continent, the planes are now open, and so like they see satyrs and whatnot walking around, because after it opened, people immediately were like, I want to go everywhere. And like they tried planar travel became very common, but it's kind of lost its vigor at this point where the campaign began. So there's a bunch of people kind of mixed culturally, but it's not as much constant travel back and forth. It's kind of lost its vigor, as I say.
Yeah. I mean, in my campaign, I've done a little bit more creation, but mine's really kind of simple. Mm-hmm. Because in my world, the gods all existed on one plane, and then after quite a long period of time, they ended up like breaking into like good versus evil, a very typical like standard, and then each of the good gods created their own plane, and each of the evil gods created their own bad planes to create armies to invade the material plane. So for control over it. So that's how. I mean,
that's a great way of creating planes. They're staging grounds for a war. That's cool.
Yeah, because there in the very beginning there was the astral plane, which was like the very, very first plane, and then the material plane in the center of it, and the gods wanted control over the material plane, and so they ended up breaking apart between good versus evil and creating different planes for them. So that's kind of how I did it.
That's cool.
Yeah. So I guess for us then, do we want to be like more of like a Judeo-Christian, like God snaps into the universe and there's the universe, like
so that's what I was saying. I was saying there was 3 creation deities, 3 deities at the beginning that created things. And what I was thinking is that there would be a falling out, and the 2 of them end up killing one of them, but that was after the creation of the world already. And so the world is created, and something about the death of this super powerful deity Like there's a massive explosion and it kind of creates all these other planets or whatnot, but it also kind of wraps the world in a kind of energy, which it becomes this other plane, which is a reflection of the original plane.
Yeah, okay.
Now, what I wanted is that, but a major thing that I want to have happen is that those two creation deities, I want them to now be locked out of any sort of like editing of the world. Like this act, the last thing this creation deity did was kind of lock the world. So these two deities, maybe that becomes important later on in the story. Maybe it never comes up at all, but they have never been heard from again.
Okay, I'm gonna say, I mean, I like this idea a lot. What if, so let's only have 2 creation deities and one remains.
Okay.
And I want to do this for a particular reason. First, I want the one that remains is evil. You see where I'm going with this?
Uh-huh.
So the one that's evil, that survived, is trying to like corrupt and destroy everything. The one that he killed to like start creation, so in the beginning there were 2 creation gods. Like in the beginning there were 2 gods, okay?
Yeah.
And they ended up getting in a huge fight, a big god battle, and the evil god killed and like destroyed the good god. And because gods are hard to kill, he ended up scattering like pieces of that god, and they created into planes. So the plane that we're making now is like a magical energy. So he like took pieces of this god's like magical prowess and like fractured it off, and then it created into a plane. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So I like this. And then what I'm thinking, and this might get, I don't know, again, I don't know anything about D&D creation in like the actual D&D lore, but what I'm thinking is like maybe when this god died, its last ounce of power was used to like protect the world from this evil god.
Yeah, I definitely thought it was that. It was protecting the world.
And now the evil god is like broken through a little bit, and that's how the corruption is there.
Ooh, okay, yeah, that's cool. It's like a foreshadowing of the
slowly breaking through, right? Like
yes,
and that's where the corruption has started.
That's cool.
So that's how this magical energy like this plant like the Feywild was created, is that it's a fracture, like it's a fraction of the gods scattered, like I don't want to say personalities, but characteristics.
Mm-hmm.
And as part of the god's last action, like tried to protect all of the realms. And the realms that are evil, so for example the Shadowfell, stuff like that, have either A, been like taken over by another entity, so like maybe a evil like demon or something who like corrupted the plane himself, or have already been taken over by the evil god that's still alive. So for this plane, it's like her, I guess like it'd be fun to do like chaotic nature plus like the magical essence kind of formed this single plane, the Feywild or whatever we want to call it. But you know, since it's Dungeoneered, we don't name things, so yeah.
Yeah, you can't name we literally cannot name this other plane.
Right. It's just whatever. It's whatever plane that's like the Feywild.
Yeah, it's so whatever. That is its current name. We will name it whatever.
Right, the plane of whatever.
Plane of whatever. So this plane of whatever.
Yeah. So that's how the plane of whatever is created.
Uh-huh.
What do we want in this plane? Do we want it to be like a forest? Do we want it to be like an actual like continents with rivers, lakes, oceans, swamps, forests? Like, do we want it to be like that, or do we want it to be like a giant?
I hate the crappy sci-fi single biome planets.
Yeah, the tropey elven forest.
Like, why is this whole planet a desert? That doesn't make any sense. Like,
I like the idea of a whole planet being a desert better than anything else. Like, it's a post-apocalyptic destruction.
Well, yes, that you can explain away, but just having it be, no, this is just the terrain. This is the only thing that grew there. This is the only thing that is there. It
is a forest of only one type of tree.
Which, okay, that could be okay.
I mean, you could definitely make it work.
There's a large, I think it's the largest single, I forget what they call it, like the largest single creature in the world. I think it's in West Virginia, and all of the trees in this one forest. They're technically one tree.
Yeah. It's like stinging nettles. They do that.
Yeah, but it's super weird for a forest, and so I think it's like one. I think it's in West Virginia, and it's so cool. And they all are the exact same genetic tree.
Yeah, see, I love that kind of stuff, but we're kind of avoiding that kind of trope for the plane, right? So I guess it would probably just be
okay.
like
Hold on. But maybe we play on it.
Okay.
So what I'm thinking
I love playing on these tropes though. So
so not even playing on tropes, but just play with the idea of. So maybe there's some sort of connection. This god being the kind of spark of this location, it is kind of connecting. So everything has like a nervous system that connects everything together. Everything from this forest to that rock and so maybe extended exposure to this place begins to connect you to it in a way. And you start to like sense the feelings of the area and kind of.
Or would it be the opposite and it tries to like
reject you? You're like a growth
almost
or a
like
cancer.
an immune system.
Yeah. Oh, that's really interesting. And so you can't stay there too long. But maybe so
almost like what is that movie where like aliens invade the world and they all die because they can't breathe oxygen or whatever, or there's bacteria in the atmosphere. What movie is that? War of the Worlds? I
don't know. Killer Clowns from Mars?
It's just like a movie where aliens come to Earth and they all die after they like get ready to slaughter us all because they're not acclimated to our bacteria.
Huh.
But like something like that, but not bacteria, but like you become essentially like a virus to this world.
Yeah, I think that could be really cool, and I think there's got to be some sort of strategic reason to go there. And so what I'm thinking it is like what we were saying. It's magically powered, like there's immense magic there, and so I think this other plane, like as like with the Feywild, you can cast higher than 9th level spells there, and so people go there to kind of do these immense magic rituals, but you cannot stay too long. Or like negatively affect the world too much, because if you do, just like with a disease, the more the more like active its kind of problems are, the things that it causes, the faster the body will detect it and start attacking.
So what would that look like? What would it look like for you to be like in this plane and it's trying to like kick you out?
I'm thinking like you walking through a forest and giant branches begin to actually I think the whole world is connected. So it's the weather as well. So I think it would be like torrential rains, heavy winds, but it kind of has this slow build up to it. So it's not just like, so it kind of feels like it builds the suspense. So there's a whistling wind begins. And then you start noticing little plinks of things hitting you, and it's just pine cones or whatnot. And then the wind picks up.
Yeah, like you trip on a root.
Yeah, you trip on a root, and it just kind of picks up, and it all feels like subtle until a moment that it's not.
Yeah, I like that. I like that a lot. I think the virus idea is really fun.
I think the moment that it's not, like things can become treants, and like all of a sudden you're literally facing things around you.
Yeah, I mean, I also, for a D&D campaign, I really like the like physical aspect of like trees are starting to like turn on you type thing. But I also think it'd be fun to have like, like a Feywild magical effect. Like, there's chances you can forget what you've learned in there, like all that kind of stuff. I like that too. Because I think if there's like a magical energy that's like all over around this plane, it would definitely have like an effect on like your body. Unless you're like obviously a creature who has existed here for, like a fey creature or whatever.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think that would be really cool is also like, because as I was saying, like that search for knowledge or that casting of a higher level spell, when you do that, you still go in there knowing I could forget everything when I leave.
Right. Like there is a chance that anything that I have done here, like this, even this ritual, like these rituals that I'm completing, have a complete like a chance to just completely be forgotten.
Yeah, 100% useless to me in the end, which is really interesting.
Now, would time work differently here? Like, would a day be longer? Would there, like, how would that, how would we want that to work? I like it as just, like, normal, to be honest.
Okay. I mean, that works.
Because, I mean, it doesn't complicate things, but also, like, you can do really fun things with, like, weather and stuff, like, at night versus during the day.
Yeah.
You know, maybe, I mean, there's just a whole lot more you can do with a day and night cycle and, like, a, you know, a similar time frame.
Yeah, and I kind of want to play on the trope of, like, everything gets worse at night. And actually have it, I want it to be the other way around, where things kind of more things are dormant at night than they are in the daytime.
Yeah,
so
I mean,
the day is dangerous.
I like the idea of equally bad.
Yeah, it works too.
Different threats.
Yeah, different things are your issues in the day than they are the things at night.
Right, like for example, walking through a forest during the day, like the trees are awake, you know, and absorbing sunlight and whatever, but they're, you know, they harass you. But like at night, for example, there's like some sort of like predator, you know, stuff like that like roam at night. I like that kind of stuff. I also, and this is kind of based off of a movie, but I also like the idea of like fireflies that are like actually fire. I love that kind of stuff. So like you're sleeping and all of a sudden like fireflies slowly start like drifting in, they like land on your tents and stuff, and everything starts catching on fire. Like,
yeah, that's like cool. I like that.
Yeah, like that kind of stuff. Like just different threats that are prevalent at night versus day.
The type of creatures that are here, do you want them to be fey? Do you want them to be more elemental? Like, I like that, the firefly thing, because it feels more elemental to me than it does like fey, but it could be fey. But it also has that kind of feel of like a fire elemental type thing.
I don't know. I like fey better. I think I like fey better than elementals.
Mm-hmm. I just think there aren't many cool elementals in D&D.
Right. I think that'd be the main reason for me, is just because it'd be so much easier to create an entire like world that's like the material plane with fey creatures than it would be with like elementals. That doesn't mean you couldn't do it. It's just you'd have to create a whole lot more.
Yeah, it'd be a whole lot more creation work for the DM.
Right, whereas you can take all sorts of fun little fey creatures that are all throughout D&D, you know?
Yeah,
and in like normal human lore, like just human mythology. Because there's all sorts of fun creatures in human mythology that you can steal from.
There are a lot of
Fey-like.
Cool mythical creatures to take.
Yeah, whereas elementals is a lot harder, but that doesn't mean you can't make a really cool elemental plane either, because definitely you can. But I like the idea, especially for like places where our hags are coming from, I like the idea of more fey creatures. Than elementals. But like you could easily have like a fire pixie, you know? Like, or whatever. Or even just a firefly that's actually like partially fire.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I like the idea of the hags. Something about them allows them to live here as long as they want without them being rejected from this place.
Yeah, now what would that be?
I think it's just that they grew up here. I think they are
just their inherent nature.
Tainted fey creatures. I think they might have even been originally like one of the other fey creatures that you see here. And I think our hags, we might make them like be able to look a lot like as different as we want. And so maybe our hags have satyr legs because they were at one point a satyr, but now they are not. And so you kind of see these hooves underneath their gowns or whatever.
I'm going to take that's kind of creepy, but
well, so what I was thinking is that they could be any of these things. They got tainted. So it could be an eladrin, it could be a pixie even, it could be any of these things.
I want to take a dive back into creation a little bit first. I'm thinking that when the two gods fought, like when the good god died, she took pieces of evil with her as she died. So she like also partially destroyed the bad god. And that's why he's also corrupting different planes, because he's trying to reclaim his pieces back.
Oh, so the hags are grew from that energy in this plane.
Yeah, exactly. And so he's trying to reclaim, obviously, all of his pieces to reform himself. And these hags are just like they've been there for forever, so they don't are subject to this magical effect. But that's the reason why they're there, like partially a part of his, death or his partial destruction.
Yeah, that's really cool. I really like that.
Yeah, so that's why they are also in this plane of whatever.
Yeah, that's cool.
Because, like, it wouldn't make sense. I mean, I guess it could if for, like, two equally powerful entities and one just, destroys it easy, Like, he also took a ton of damage and he lost pieces of his own
yeah, that's
entity.
why I thought it was... That's why I had
deity.
2 versus 1, because that would make more sense that the other 2 had a belief that this is how things should be, while that other one had a different idea. And because it was 2 of them, they could take it down. But yeah, 1-on-1, there would definitely be some sort of mutual damage.
Right, there would definitely be some sort of collateral. So
I think we're going to talk about this next week, because this is a really cool idea, and so I want to dive into these deities more next week.
Yeah,
because there is a creation myth that's kind of similar to this, with I forget the one of it's Asmodeus, so the Lord of Hell, and the Lord of the Coatls, but I cannot remember what their name is for the life of me.
Don't ask me. I'm not a lore keeper.
But yeah, and so they were. It was kind of they were an Ouroboros as they created the world. They were both like 2 giant snakes that were Ouroborosing, which is like one has their head on the tail of another, while the other one's head is on the first one's tail.
Right.
And so
yeah,
they kind of created the world in the plains. I really want to know what this deity's name is.
I have no idea.
It might have just been Quetzalcoatl, which is like the
dinosaur.
No, Quetzalcoatl is a no. Quetzalcoatl is a deity in the Aztec culture, like the only Aztec god that I know of.
Isn't there a dinosaur called a Quetzalcoatlus?
There's something similar, I think. Oh, it's Jezerian.
Isn't it like a big bird?
Yeah, so it's the Jezerian deity of community, peace, learning, and parenthood. And so it and Asmodeus created a bunch of stuff together, but they had a fight over what they thought the center of the plane should be, what the center should be. Asmodeus thought it should be hell. I think Jezerian wanted it to be Mount Celestia, and they kind of fought over this. And then, so the if you look at hell, an image of hell, I don't know why I'm going into the topic for next week here, but I am. The image of hell, like the map of it, where it shows it, as I said, like in a previous episode, it's like a upside down pyramid.
Yeah.
But there is a hole through every single level, and that is where Asmodeus literally fell from the place where he created the world through hell. And so now the river Styx actually crosses as she goes down to the next layer of hell through these holes.
Yeah. Yeah, so I think like our creation story is going to be like very similar to that.
Yeah.
But I think instead of like the gods creating stuff to begin with.
Oh, there's the bird.
Yeah, there's my bird. She's like, what are you talking about? But instead of like them creating stuff to begin with, it was like their fight and their death, like their destruction created stuff because of how powerful they were.
Yeah, I like that.
It's like their fragments created different planes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's cool.
And now the evil god exists just barely. Like he's still alive. And the good god used the last of their power to seal off all the planes.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's why hags would be in a plane like that.
And so now they are hunting with their corruption. Hunting with their corruption to try to find the rest of them and rebuild.
And so the hags left this plane because they've broken through on the material plane. And so they leave the Feywild, whatever plane we just made, to help try and expand the corruption.
Okay, cool. Yeah.
As like evil servants, essentially.
Mm-hmm. So, okay. Now, this is kind of getting to the end game stuff. Do you think to defeat the corruption, they have to somehow rebuild the other god, awaken it, use the power of the plane,
I don't know.
gain the power of the plane, kind of connect with the plane in a way that kind of grants them greater strength to take on the corruption?
No, yeah, I mean, if you wanted to go like full on Greek god style, you could have them like fly out to wherever this barely alive god is and fight him and kill him, and that would kill the corruption. If you wanted to do something like that, you could do that as like the ultimate end bad guy. Or you could go like a route of like they have to like there's a tear in the like somebody like you'd stab a dagger through a piece of paper, like there's a tear and you have to re-seal it. You could do something like that, and then fight the corruption entity that's there. So the part of the god that's still alive there, you'd fight that part if you wanted. Yeah. Which I kind of like that better, because if a god was this powerful and like just part of his destruction created planes, like you're fighting a segment, like a remnant of him that's alive.
Yeah, what he could rebuild.
Right, and so if all of those pieces were to get together,
and so what you're just trying to defeat that to put it back into some sort of a hibernation or stasis.
Yep. Yeah.
To knock it back down, and so maybe every few years it has to be knocked back down, or it'll be too dangerous.
Yeah, I mean, unless the party could like completely eliminate it, like if
seal
they killed
it for sure
fragment,
somehow.
Yeah, that's probably what you would do. And that would be like why we would have like that border there where there's like groups trying to fight off and hold back the different parts of corruption. Yeah.
And maybe there are random like paladins or clerics or people that are just granted celestial power that are defending that, and they're not even sure why. They're like, I didn't pray to anybody, or like why is this? And it's the kind of last remnants of that, of the good god giving powers to these people.
Yeah, I mean, yeah. I don't know if I like the idea of not knowing. I don't know, I'd have to think about that. But I mean, I could definitely see like clerics of the last order or whatever, or like, like something like that, or like they're serving the original creation deity who died. I like that. But yeah, I mean, that's still a little off topic from creating the Feywild. We got
it is.
Now here's the question: would there be corruption? Do we want like any kind of corruption in this Feywild like place?
I think it's tried. I think it is tried, but it hits that kind of barrier of...
Well, this would be an effect...
of infection.
Yeah, but I mean, this could be an effect of like the world killing, essentially the magical energy killing, and the world killing a virus that enters. So if it's tried, the world has actively killed it.
Sorry, so what are you saying? Are you agreeing with me there? I couldn't tell.
So what I was saying is like how if like a humanoid were to go into this Feywild, they would have adverse effects and things would be attacking them like a virus. So like the god had tried, kind of like you said, so I guess agreeing, tried to like corrupt this place, but it was unable to because the world essentially killed it like a virus.
Okay, yeah, so it was agreeing. Yeah, that's what I was saying. Yeah. So it saw it as
because of this virus property.
Okay, yes. And so I think that virus property, as we're calling it now, I guess, is it's a defensive mechanism specifically against the corruption. Yep. But it's not something they could like shut off at times or turn on for others, and so that's why it even attacks like the players or people that visit the
I don't know if I want it to be exactly for the corruption. I think it's just that's why it's one of the places that hasn't been affected yet. Just like the magical energy of the god that died, that formed this plane, created this kind of, for no particular purpose. It's just that the energy that is there within the plane itself created, like, is the reason for this. And I think it would be fun because then you would have like a cool history that if the players were to go into this plane of whatever, they could like, if they're trying to learn about the corruption, they could learn about it here because it's already been here. And like people have written about it, how it tried to take over, but it was actively destroyed by everything in the plane.
Yeah. And so I think there might be like a cool dungeon that they have to go into where like someone from the material plane went here and tried to do this research and kind of found out and kind of studied it like a biologist would, and found out and kind of makes these claims of like this plane almost reacts like a body fighting off, and like kind of fully puts it in the terms of fighting off a virus and that kind of thing, and so then like he kind of makes these assumptions, and then kind of maybe you tease the players with this kind of creation story, not telling them that the god became this plane, and then just see if you can kind of like imply it and see if people can get up, because your players are I think they have more fun when they kind of figure that stuff out on their own, kind of when you hint at it, but then they're like, wait a minute, could it be this?
Yep.
And so by kind of doing that, even if you're very vague about it, players are a lot smarter than you think they are, and they're gonna like I've had to.
They're also a lot dumber than you think they are.
They are. It is so weird. At times they're way dumber than you think they are, and other times they're way smarter.
Yeah.
It's so weird.
It always feels good though for like a player, like when you figure something out. It's been hinted at and stuff like that. It always feels good. So I think that's a fun little hint that you could put in, and then they could go to that plane and find accounts of the corruption that had died here.
Mm-hmm. Well, I think that's gonna do it for this episode. I've been forgetting to say what number it is during previous episodes.
I don't even know.
We're at number 18 now. Episode 18.
18. Dang.
Yeah, we're getting there.
We're gonna have fun plans, 20. Aaron, when are we gonna start 25th? A new season? Are we gonna? So you say? I mean,
I didn't think it was gonna happen. Like instantaneously. I thought it was gonna be like a season would be at least a year.
Yeah, I mean, I'm down with that, but I guess when we feel like the
world's done, we should start at another
campaign we're weaving is complete.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And if there's something you want to build up where you're like, I feel like we should talk about this, I'll find a topic on that thing. So if there's something that you're like, I really want us to build like yada yada in this world.
Ah, yes, the classic yada yada. Oh yeah, we definitely
like the Baba Yaga.
The yada yada.
It's the enemy of the Baba Yaga, the yada yada.
Yep. Sounds about right.
Yep. Yeah. We're not quite the sharpest barrels in the bunch, but
true.
We sure know our chairs of potato wedges.
It's true. Can't go wrong.
Well, I think that's all the references I can fit in here, so
yeah, we've got them all.
Thank you for listening, and see you next time.
Bye.
There you go.